My name is Timothy O'Brien. I'm a PhD candidate. Well, I've been a graduate student there since the fall of 2004. This morning I filed a federal civil rights complaint against the University of Houston for actions they've taken against me. The complaint contains two main points: that the university violated my free speech rights under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, and that the university retaliated against me for exercising those rights by filing false disciplinary charges and cutting my graduate assistantship for the last school year and the upcoming school year. Dr. Couture, the president and chancellor of the University of Houston, is very angered by the media coverage of two student groups that I found: Students for Fair Trade and Students Against Sweatshops. Some of the members of those groups are standing here with me. Recently, June 17th, the Houston Chronicle published an article about the Students for Fair Trade and a coffee bean replica we brought to Dr. Couture's office the day before. Shortly after that, I received 4 separate disciplinary charges, or student life referrals, as the school calls them. The charges are obviously trumped up, and they include copies of the press coverage that Students for Fair Trade and Students Against Sweatshops received for visits to Dr. Couture's office. These disciplinary charges are an attempt to get me expelled from the university. And one of the persons that's filed these disciplinary charges against me in the past is Dr. Elwyn Lee. Elwyn Lee is the husband of United States Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Dr. Lee is afraid that my research about Freedmanstown, historic black neighborhood adjacent to downtown, will come out and show what she's been doing to wreck my historic black neighborhood for the last 13 years. One of my neighbors, Gladys House, is here. She's been standing for her neighborhood. She's a native, been standing for more than 30 years. I've given several academic papers at conferences about this topic of Freedmanstown and Allen Parkway Village. And Elwyn Lee is aware of this, and the Congresswoman is aware of it. I'm also scheduled to give another paper at an academic conference in November. It's about Allen Parkway Village and the history that my African-American neighbors have made standing for their neighborhood. I've told the Congresswoman this about my research, my doctoral research, back in November 2006 after Friendship Missionary Baptist Church was burned down in front of my house. That fire almost killed my family. I asked the Congresswoman for help that night. She has not done anything. In fact, an African-American neighbor of mine was gunned down by a white homeowner in Freedmanstown right before that, and we asked the Congresswoman for her help to do a federal investigation. She had done nothing. I've also asked Dr. Lee to inform Dr. Lee that I will not allow his wife, the Congresswoman, to run around Houston claiming she's going to stand up for black history. In fact, in May 16th this year, my church that I belong to, Mount Carmel Missionary Baptist Church, a 91-year-old church, was prematurely destroyed by the city of Houston. On that day, Dr. Lee called me and said he wanted to meet me at school and discuss things. At the same instant, Sheila Jackson Lee's staffer, Michael Halpern, was talking to my church member about how he was going to assist our church. In fact, Sheila Jackson Lee has done nothing, and the city has given us 90 days to remove the rubble from our church, or they will put a lien and possibly take our land. Those 90 days are down to about 50. The Congresswoman has done nothing, and what they've done instead is try to expel me, get me out of the university so my research won't come out. It's also very clear that the Students Against Sweatshops and Students for Fair Trade have received a lot of media coverage. In the Houston Chronicle, on TV, in the college paper, and other media outlets. The problem is that the staff of the University of Houston thinks that we have no free speech rights. The University of Houston has a history of anti-free speech policies and actions. For example, in 2003, the university lost a lawsuit about free speech, and they paid $93,000 to the students who had filed suit against them. At the time, the university said that free speech cannot be prohibited when administrators or faculty disagree with it. And in fact, in that federal lawsuit, the Dean of Students, William Munson, revealingly testified that he would ban the silent expression of a single student on the plaza in front of the library on campus who was holding a sign saying, "The world is a beautiful place." It's clear from their actions that Dr. Couture and her staff do not follow the university's claims that the university is a place where free inquiry and expression are encouraged. So now Dr. Couture and her staff are desperately trying to expel me from the university and wreck my family's future. Couture hopes that by doing so, she will scare away these hardworking undergrads standing here. Tiffany Lee has been recognized nationally for her leadership in fighting for human rights at the University of Houston. They want these students and other students that aren't here today to be scared away and to be silent at our university and not work to make our world a better place. We're standing up for the workers, the janitors, the people who sew clothes, the food service workers, and we're trying to help the unions who are doing their work to make our world a better place. But the university doesn't like that, so they'd rather illegally expel me before I get my PhD so our free speech rights would be trampled. And in fact, Dr. Couture has also turned a blind eye to minority concerns. Our university has an African American Studies program that for 40 years has been in place, but it can't give a bachelor's degree in African American Studies. And in fact, they've shut out minority contractors. My associate Gladys House is with the Black Contractors and Business Organization. She's asked Dr. Couture for her to come speak to her organization. And in fact, she testified in Austin recently in March in front of a state legislative committee about how organizations like the City of Houston, HISD, and my university shut out minority-owned businesses. The university is aware of that, and they're very angry that she also mentioned in her testimony that she asked Dr. Couture for an appointment or to come speak to her group, and Dr. Couture doesn't even answer. So there's a lot of problems in my university, and it's wrong for the university to trample on our free speech rights, to illegally file these fabricated disciplinary charges, and to make the university a place where workers' rights are not respected, where human rights are trampled on, where we work hard outside of our schoolwork for hours, weeks, and years at a time to try to bring these things to light. We're stepped on. We're not going to let it happen. We're going to take our university back. They're not going to shut us up. We're going to stand for the workers. We're going to stand for social justice and human rights and make our university a better place, even though the administrators and the politicians like Sheila Jackson Lee want to talk the talk, but they're not walking the walk. We're fighting, and we're going to take our university back. It's our university.
Can you tell me what exactly Congresswoman Jackson Lee is doing that you feel might be revealed in your research?
What she has done in the past, when my African American neighbors, Lemuel Johnson, got Nikki Leland to pass a law called the Frost-Leland Act, so federal money couldn't be used to destroy the public housing project, Sheila Jackson Lee worked behind the scenes with Tom DeLay to get that bill overturned. That's one thing she did that I gave that information in the paper I gave. But what she's been doing in the meantime all along is she's been going against heroes, real black leaders like Gladys House, who stood up for the neighborhood. She has tried to co-opt the issue and run around in front and jumping in from TV cameras and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. On June 20th, the day after Juneteenth, she stood down at Antioch Missionary Baptist Church and said she would save Mount Carmel. She would work to save Mount Carmel. That's not happening. You can go a few blocks from here and see that rubble and see what will happen if we can't get it cleared. The city will take that.
So you think you're saying that that is one of the reasons that she's trying to level some influence over your graduates?
Yes, she's using her husband to do her dirty work, to make sure if I don't have a PhD, I have less legitimacy. When I get my PhD and get this book published about Allen Parkway in Freemanstown and the hard work my black neighbors have been doing, if I don't have that PhD, I have less credibility. So they try to snatch my PhD, trump up charges that I'm going around screaming and yelling at people in order to keep that under the rug. She doesn't want that swept open up out in the academic world, peer-reviewed history, where I can go and present work at conferences and have that book published.
Well, why haven't you named Iverson in your lawsuit?
Well, I named the University of Houston. I'm not a lawyer. I borrowed money to have someone babysit my 2-year-old daughter and borrowed money to file this lawsuit. So I think from my research, the University of Houston is all the people in there, including Elwood Lee. And I guess at some